called Nurturing Our Children, an Auntie's Perspective, and I'm Christine Popowich. My background, I'm currently a preschool special education teacher and family support staff, as well as an auntie. In the past, I've done Head Start preschool, therapeutic child development, social work, and I was a foster parent. So I guess I'll start with how this came about. So I was in the preschool realm, and then COVID hit, and I took time off, during which I looked around, and oh my gosh, everywhere I looked, I got concerned about all of our kids, all ages. There seemed to be escalating negative behaviors, a lack of social skills, and what they were exposed to. I had no idea what they were going through. A while after I returned to work, I talked to a counselor in the community about what appeared to be a different stress on children. He basically said I was right, and he shared what he was seeing as well. And then he told Cindy Beck from Summit Pacific about my concerns, my heartfelt concerns. So she invited me to speak, and I'm very thankful to be here and for this opportunity. I want to thank Lynn Walker, too, for helping me as well. Any way I could help nurture our children as an auntie and professionally support families' resilience and strength, I'd like to do that. The culture seems to be changing quickly, and I know parents are concerned about their children and their grandchildren's uncertain future. But first, I'd like to dedicate this to all children, especially those in my family, ages 0 to 21, who call me auntie, as well as those I care and love about very deeply. I wish I had closer relationships. It seems hard to stay connected, but and I have a very special dedication to the one sort of in the middle who needs the most attention right now. I'd like to read a poem I wrote for her. A time of celebration of who you are becoming, a period of transition. The world is aligning itself to welcome the growing young woman who is changing right before our eyes. That's Louise at age 13. So an overview. My expertise is preschool. However, I'll discuss what we want for all children, and then I'll revisit special tasks of the middle childhood to tween and early teen stages. I'll talk about the role of technology and what it plays because it's such a significant part of growing up these days. I'll then suggest using nature as a balance in our lives and share some resources. And lastly, I'll talk about resilience and strength through awareness and conversations and share resources I've found to help navigate all this. So I hope to at least start a conversation that continues at home, school, or wherever you may be. So to start, I ask, what do we want most for our children? We want them to be safe, secure, and happy, healthy, kind, and compassionate, empathic, honest, hardworking, self-motivated, have confidence and high self-esteem. We want them to be able to communicate. We want them to know how to get along with others, be respectful, responsible, and independent. We want them to understand how to make real, healthy, authentic friendships, even healthy romantic ones as well. We want them to be flexible, to handle frustrations, or conflict and be good problem solvers. We want them to be able to self-regulate. We want them to find and hear their inner voice and trust themselves. I want to see all of their strengths and talents nurtured. I love their uniqueness, their quirks, senses of humor, and passions. And I have to say this, kids need to have a deep appreciation of nature and connection to place. And if you look at all these qualities and social emotional skills that we hope for and want for our children, technology appears to be derailing these. So previously, Lynn Walker's presentation talked about the preteen and teen developmental tasks, and I'll just review a few of those big tasks that are going on that are relevant to this topic, as well as that affect younger ages. Tweens and early teens are going through another rapid brain development phase, and the brain begins pruning away pathways that they're not going to use. That's why our social skills foundations are so important to build. They have difficulty reading facial expressions. Tweens are also becoming autonomous, finding their own identity and values. In other words, they're discovering who they really are. And they're really starting to pull away from their parents and families, and they're off to the bedroom, shutting the door behind them. And I so remember those days. They'll zigzag between stages, so they might still play with toys, and then they're off doing their own thing and want nothing to do with such childish things. They can also be impulsive and lack the ability to foresee consequences of their behavior. So do you see where I'm going with this? This is perhaps where I get a little scared or worried. This is where the phone and social media apps and perhaps inappropriate content comes in and can wreak havoc if they're completely on their own with it or if it sucks up all their time. And everyone, professionally and personally, that I've talked to shares the very same concerns. It seems to be interfering with our kids' healthy development, especially social skills. I found the more I talked about it, and the more I heard and continue to hear concerns from parents, grandparents, coworkers, counselors, school counselors, teachers, school administrators, and even law enforcement. It's definitely a thing. So here's some of the concerns that have come up. Technology introduced too early and too much screen time. Phones with access to social media and the internet are given to kids and it becomes a distraction at the very least. There's a whole world of video games and even technology addiction. The distraction of phones interferes with class time and learning. Social skills go out the window, and there's more aggression on the playground for school-age children, and children have difficulty with self-regulation. There's bullying in real life or in person, and another level of cyberbullying as well. Older kids are posting unflattering pictures of peers, recording teachers, splicing the recordings and taking things out of context. And there's naked selfies, and all kids have access to pornography. Using social media seems to confuse the idea of friendship. It came to my attention too that there's impacts on children's physical development, such as fine and gross motor skills. In finding resources for this topic, I read that at an extreme end, technology can confuse a person's sense of what's real versus not real. And multiple sources stated it contributes to mental health issues, such as anxiety, depression, and even suicide. At least all of these concerns have increased along with the rise in the use of technology. This is a broad range of issues, and there's impacts at all ages and stages of development. The particularly obvious impacts are on social skills and self-regulation. I'll link to several resources at the end, and if you'd like more in-depth information about the pitfalls of technology, you can find them there. So we're seeing addiction issues, a lack of social skills, and stress manifesting with kids' behaviors. Some anecdotes that have been shared or I've witnessed include the following. There's quite a few here. Okay, the first one, a mom said, "My kids get mad when I give them my phone or tablet and then try to take it away." And this is a preschool and early elementary age. And I had a preschooler pacing around the classroom and I asked, "What's up?" And he said, "I can't wait to get home. I just want to play my video games." And it was hard to get him engaged in the classroom. And then another preschooler in class told me during circle time, "My mom said my dad needs to get a job. He just plays video games all day." He even told me where his dad was supposed to apply. A second grader was walking around the school with his arms and hands out in front of himself when he came to one of my reading groups, and he's sort of still inside the video game, acting it out. And I was told that this was common for him. That was like probably the first time I've seen a kid seemingly stuck in a video game. Preschoolers were playing a game in the gym. The para abruptly told them all to stop. I was confused, and she told me they were recreating a video game where you shoot the characters and they die falling on the floor, and then they get up again after a few seconds. I thought it was the old red light, green light. I had no idea. A counselor from a community mental health agency, he said, "I've been to a lot of different school districts and I'm seeing a lot more violent games and aggressive behavior on the playground." That's at elementary schools. And speaking of which, I talked about bullying to a third grader, and he said, "Don't get me started. I know about bullying one hand." Of course, he meant firsthand, and it broke my heart because he's mentioned this to me before. An occupational therapist assistant had the following observations regarding students up to third grade. We're seeing concerns with fine motor skills. They're showing weak muscles in the ring finger and pinky part of the hand. They're not cutting properly. And were unable to grip their scissors or grip their pens and pencils appropriately when they were writing. Another example, a friend who is a drug and alcohol counselor, when I told her about this topic, she says, "I agree with you, Christine. Let me tell you about my boyfriend's teen son who came to live with us. He couldn't carry on a back and forth conversation. He had difficulty finishing a thought. He plays video games compulsively and has for a long time. It's gotten better, though, since he's been here." A mom who's also a teacher said, "My 13-year-old son shared his old phone with a peer who was going to buy it. And when it came back, someone had sent a picture of a penis, and he was very embarrassed and brought it to my attention. This mama bear took a hammer to that cell phone." An older teen informed me a teacher's son, and this is not from anywhere around here, was collecting naked selfies of ex-girlfriends of his peers and posting them in one place so they can all access them. I asked a teen who was a senior in high school at the time if she and her friends were into naked selfies, and she chuckled and said, "No, that just happens a lot in junior high." And teens and post-teens I know have told me getting a naked photo of men is just common and to be expected, especially on certain social media apps. Oh my gosh. And that one is heartbreaking to me. I don't want kids thinking this is normal. Is it too late? I keep hearing that we have to accept this new reality of phones and social media. I read that it's not a matter of if, but when a girl will be asked to send nudes in middle school. I hope I never get used to this or desensitized to this. I'm never going to let it become normal. So kids this age disappear into their rooms and they find ways to connect to their friends, usually on social media or on their games, and stay up till all hours. The phone sleeps by their head. Remember, this is a time when we're forming our identity and our values and who we are. Please, parents, don't let them navigate this stuff on their own. Please keep the lines of communication open. We need to have boundaries around the use of technology. I'd like to share two resources that seem to be well-researched and also name these concerns. They both acknowledge we shouldn't introduce technology too soon so it doesn't derail their healthy development. The first one is Raising Humans in a Digital World by Diana Graeber. This discusses ways to help children navigate online life, and she starts with statistics about use. Kids are increasingly using it, exposed to devices between 0 and 5. Tweens are spending 6 hours a day on screens, teens 9 hours a day. Parents are using screens as much or more than their kids. She says that children need to develop their social and emotional skills before introducing technology. Children need to have phones, tablets, etc., introduced by an adult who act as a guide on the side and help them navigate their use and ensure that they're protected from dangers. She presents a curriculum through cyber civics to help students in middle school learn how to be an empathic, thoughtful, compassionate human being online. Some of the lessons include Snapchat policies. They look at those pretty closely. So kids, for instance, might know that their pictures are owned by Snap for life. They talk about privacy, critical thinking, managing their online reputations, and being an upstander. And I'll link to that website at the end. And the other resource is a book called Glow Kids by Nicholas Cardera. And the author states he's not anti-tech, but he writes strong opinions on the use of electronics and even the effects of television and media, especially for young kids. He treats children and adults for addiction issues. He says that excessive screen time can actually change the brain and cause neurological damage. Children and adults use texting, social media, and play video games excessively. He states it can cause problems with focus and hyperarousal, ADHD, and it can impact our ability to feel empathy or even discern reality. He links gaming and media exposure to actual violence. And he also notes that inappropriate content impacts kids' healthy development. And I thought it would be helpful to share his signs of addiction. So questions you can ask. Is your child staying up later and later to stay on the computer? Does your child get fidgety, anxious, or angry if they don't have their device? Is their tech usage negatively impacting their schoolwork, family life, or other activities? Is your child indicating that they have a difficult time getting virtual imagery out of their head? Are they dreaming of that virtual imagery? Are they hiding their screen usage or devices from you? Do they seem to be having a more difficult time regulating their emotions? Do they seem apathetic or bored more easily? Are they wired and tired? And are teachers complaining that your child is falling asleep in school? Any one or combination of those above could be a red flag for screen or tech addiction. Both of these authors acknowledge, too, that appropriate use of technology can be a good learning tool. They just caution using it too early before children are ready. And we need to balance technology with real-life experiences. In Glow Kids, the author emphasizes the power of wilderness therapy or connecting with nature. Nature is balance. This is where we get to take a deep breath and know all is not lost. It definitely feels like an antidote to all this talk about technology. We're a part of nature. It's not a trip you have to plan for, a place you have to drive to. It's us. It's everywhere. It's outside your windows and through your front door. A quick nature walk, noticing flora and fauna, looking at a sunset are ways to engage in the natural world. Relationships to the natural world can be very healing, comforting, or nurturing. Kids need that sense of security, like that feeling of being on base when playing tag. Nature can do that for them as well as us adults. You can give this gift to your children, to yourself, and your family. Both authors reference Richard Louve's Last Child in the Woods, and I'm glad they did. He stresses the need for unstructured play in as close to natural spaces as we can get. He coined the term nature deficit disorder, which he basically equated with ADHD. He says these are the benefits if we do this. Children use all of their senses. It enhances their creativity and imagination, wonder and awe. It's enriching for all ages. We know nature is healing, calming, and relieves stress. It can enhance spiritual experiences. And he suggests that we can reverse ADHD symptoms. Richard Louve has 100 nature activities for kids and families at the end of his book. Examples include from small ideas at home, like getting a load of dirt, playing in the dirt, or a family walk at night when the moon is full, to changing the community by meeting neighbors or transforming vacant lots to encourage unstructured natural play spaces. My preschoolers so naturally love everything about life, and it warms my heart how fascinating to them all things are in the natural world. I don't want to see their special connection to nature wane as they get older. So here's my question. Why or how does the awe and wonder of nature fade after the early childhood years? How do we keep nature as enticing through the middle school and tween and teen years? Play seems to be the answer so far in outdoor experiences. Learning about nature's complexity and, of course, modeling. I would encourage parents to keep this in mind for kids of all ages and even themselves. It's good for you and it's good for them. There's a lot of resources on this. I'll link to a few at the end. So what else can we do? Awareness is key. Here are some of the recommendations for screen time. They say 0 to 18 months, no technology with the exception of video chatting, maybe with relatives who live far away. It says 18 to 24 months, using high quality apps with your children and avoid them using it by themselves. It used to be 0 to 2, they recommended none. 2 to 5 years, co-view or co-play, no more than an hour a day. In the preschool classroom, I use it very intentionally. And yeah, pre-screen, get it ready beforehand. And then 6+ years, there's no limit anymore. It just says limit media. There's no time frame on there. It says limit media, make sure it doesn't interfere with their sleep or physical activity, etc. So we got to continue to shine a light on things, be self-aware, be conscious and mindful about your technology use, know how much tech time your child gets, and help them with that balance. In Raising Humans in a Digital World, she suggested tracking your time online and offline and comparing them, and even making a graph out of that. That's one of their activities in school. And then maybe you could try fasting from tech and see what you come up with. Definitely need replacement behaviors, so have something alternative planned ahead. And lastly, be very cautious about the age you give your child a phone. If you need it for emergencies, make it a dumb one, a flip phone if needed. And another protective factor is having open conversations, staying connected. If you're not, reconnecting may be hard. Children need guidance for everything, even if they don't act like it. Be that parent who can talk about anything. Just break the ice. There's lots going on, lots to make sense of. Don't let them do this on their own. They need to be explicitly and intentionally taught about healthy relationships, romantic and otherwise. Talk about what healthy relationships and or dating look like in real life. Compare it to online. What do you want for them when they're dating? What qualities should they look for? IRL relationships should be highly valued in real life. Those relationships are irreplaceable. Talk with them about what happens on social media, such as asking about who their friends are or who their friends are, and discuss the difference between those. If you need to, talk to counselors, talk to everyone, and network. If conversations are difficult, you can write to them. Leave notes, sappy ones, like for their birthday or after a disagreement or just because. Apologize if you should. Listen and give them credit when they're acting grown up, and foster their independence. Make sure they know they have a superpower and they have gifts, and help them find them. And I liked this conversation. I was talking to an older teen at her work, and I read a quote in that book, 14 Talks by Age 14. And a parent said, "My kid is a stranger to me," like she didn't know her child anymore. And the older teen said, "Parents do too know their kids. It's just that they're changing so fast, going from a kid to a grown-up." And I thought that was very mature and insightful. She also said that their mistakes are not who they are. The author suggested having talks with kids well before age 14. But if kids have smartphones and access at a young age to the world, lots of talks should happen sooner, especially if, unfortunately, they're bound to run into inappropriate content. Okay, this is where insist on quality time with your kids. This is where I need to apologize to my mom for the eye rolls and complaining when she said, "Let's spend quality family time together." And we wanted to go out or hang with friends. And we called it boring or cheesy, or worse yet, stupid or dumb. This is even before technology distractions. It can be hard to engage kids, especially with the excitement and stimulating experience of being plugged in. Contrast VR goggles on a roller coaster ride in Vegas to birding, virtual reality. It's okay to be bored. Give it time and get used to being with each other in real life. Better yet, have them bring their friends to your house and do boring things together. Like what? Like board games and puzzles. I hear middle school age kids have forgotten how to interact and play games unplugged. Even having dinner together is a thing. I see families who don't even have a kitchen table. So if you can afford one, you have one, you should really use it. Carry on conversations. Practice communicating all sides of an issue and staying emotionally regulated. That's a 21st century skill right there. And a little anecdote. So when I was a social worker, I had to supervise a visit between a 3 and a 7-year-old and their parents. And then I had to end the visit after 2 hours. And the 7-year-old frowned and he looked up at me and he said, more time, more time. He put his fist up. And I guess what that means to me is just don't take any of the precious time that we have with our children for granted. The tween years, say 10 to 14, that's only 48 months. Look how fast they're changing. As kids get older, they'll need the interpersonal skills that don't develop from a device. So ask yourself, how much of your lives do you want to devote to using technology such as social media or the distraction of video games? How much time do you want to sacrifice that could otherwise be spent with kids in real life? Protect them and don't let them shut the door and drift apart. The more attention they get, the more time in nature, the less plugged in they are, the happier they'll be. And keep the conversations going. Make sure kids find their strengths, talents, and gifts because they need you. And here's some references that I used. And there's the books that I used as well, reference. And then I added some extras because I kept finding great things left and right. There's a lot out there. And thank you very much. And there's my contact information. And thank you. That's all.